Welcome to my USPSA Journal number 1. Today we're going to review the Magpul Pmag 17. We'll get some quick thoughts on the ZEV race connector, and then we'll take a thorough look at Feedom Munitions 9mm remanufactured ammo. First up, the Pmag 17. The Pmag 17 is an affordable Magpul version of the Glock magazine that comes in around $15 a pop. Magazine is all polymer, unlike the steel reinforced polymer of the Glock OEM magazine, and features an orange follower for a quick ID of an empty gun. I really like the feature set of the magazine, especially at that price. It survived some really basic drop testing, and during my practice range session the weekend or the days before the actual USPSA match, I had no issues with the magazine. It functioned flawlessly with federal aluminum and federal brass cased ammunition. Aside from minor scuffing, the magazines were fine and they functioned very well. I had no failures of any type during my practice session with the federal aluminum and federal brass cased ammunition. The match is only a few days away at this point, and I'm trying out another upgrade on my gun, the ZEV race connector. This dropped the trigger pull weight substantially over the stock setup, and I found I could really keep the sight steady on longer range targets while I pulled that trigger in the rear. Really digging the setup so far. So based on the Pmag performance, I decided I would be using these as my primary magazine during the pistol match. Now let's review Feedom Munitions 9mm. So Thursday before the match, I get my delivery of Feedom Munitions 115 grain remanufactured ammo. This stuff ran like clockwork in my G19. Unfortunately, that didn't happen at the actual match with my G17. Despite whichever magazine I tried, I was getting frequent malfunctions. What's interesting is you don't really know what's going on at the match. You're topped up on adrenaline, you're trying to keep track of everything. Initially I thought, hey, what's going on with these Pmags? What's going on with these magazines? But it turned out, upon review of the video and a frame-by-frame analysis, both magazines were malfunctioning. So it wasn't the magazines, it was the ammo. I was getting weak extraction. Primarily my theory is that the G17 being fairly new, the recoil spring was a bit heavy for the ammunition as well as the slide. Whereas the lighter slide and the more worn-in spring of my G19 allowed the same ammunition, exact same ammunition, to function flawlessly. Here, it's struggling, and I'm struggling to keep up. Aside from the comically bad amount of malfunctions I was having, I was really satisfied again with that ZEV race connector. I felt that the light and trigger pull allowed me to hold very steady and pull to the rear of that trigger and get some good hits on steel. Here I tried to shoot a no penalty shoot, but immediately jammed, and I couldn't shoot him.
Slide forward.
During this stage, I quickly ran in my range bag. I lubed the gun with some motor oil, long story, and I also switched over to federal ammunition for these first two magazines. Note the solid ejection pattern. Even one-handed, the federal ammunition still had enough energy to cycle the slide. Even though the motion of my arm and wrist is robbing the slide of some energy, the federal had no problem.
Okay, top it off.
The next two magazines were all Feedom Munitions.
Holster.
Are we going to get problems? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we will.
It'll be freestyle
Lots of
here,
problems.
and then reload, and then weekend up there.
What happens next with the ammunition is quite telling. This ammunition isn't very consistent. Not even enough energy to cycle the slide. All this seems obvious now, but at the time it wasn't. I was trying to troubleshoot. Upon review of the video is what really illuminated me to all the problems with the ammunition I was having. And check this out. When I hamstring it with some weak hand or left-handed shooting, I get even more failures. And also a bad habit alert. I didn't even realize it at the time, but I was trying to clear that gun with my left hand finger on the trigger. That's a habit I've never broken because I've never practiced emptying that gun left-handed or clearing that gun. Just know for the future, your muscle memory is important, and if you don't have muscle memory developed for something like that, then you won't when you head to the competition. I'm glad they didn't disqualify me for that.
Hammer down. Hey, range is clear. Load and make ready.
I had much better luck these last two stages. I was only using Glock magazines just to troubleshoot.
Okay.
Again, at the time I just didn't
You ready?
know it was the ammunition. I didn't know if it was the magazines or what. So here I go with my run, and I'm pretty happy with the results. No failures to feed, no failures to fire, no failures to eject. It was a good run. At the time I thought it might have been my Pmag, so I grabbed one, oh, don't want that, put it back, and went back to the Glock OEM there. But it wasn't the Pmag's fault.
Okay, unload show clear. Slide forward, hammer down, holster.
Alright, shooter ready.
Alright, stand by.
My final run was also good. No issues with the gun, no issues with the ammo, still Feedom munitions. So was it just that one box of Feedom munitions? I can't say for sure. There are some weak ammo ejection patterns here still. A couple dribbles out of the gun. But really, I'm glad I had the camera. Otherwise, I would have thought it was the Pmag at the time. So at this point, my only real option is to respring this gun with a lighter recoil spring and see if I get better ejection and less failures with this ammunition. I really don't want to do that, but I've got a lot of it left, so I've got to cycle through it or just get rid of it for the range practice ammo. Alright, some lessons learned. I need to practice all drills with the weak hand as well as the right hand. Also, ammo that functions well in one gun may not function well in another. And another very important lesson is that video is an important assessment tool. Remember when I switched over to those Glock OEM mags for the last two runs there? No malfunctions? At the time I was convinced it was the Magpul Pmag, but it wasn't. Alright, next time we'll be taking a look at the ALG Defense 6-second mount. We'll be trying to run the G17 in open class with very few modifications. We'll also be taking a look at Vigilance Tactical mag pouches. And we're also going to respring the gun to see if I get any better performance improvements from this ammunition with a lighter recoil spring assembly. This has been a New Rifleman LLC production, and a special thanks to Loose Rounds for letting me host this series on www.looserounds.com.